and welcome. I'm Connie Carroll, and I'm here today with Karen Rossi, who has been on a journey through cancer with BreastLink. Karen, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'll tell you, I know from speaking with you a little bit that you have quite a story to tell. How did you come across BreastLink? What was your diagnosis like?
I was diagnosed in April of last year, and it was really my primary physician. So I was very fortunate to have a primary physician who insisted that I see Dr. Curcio at BreastLink.
Oh.
And she was so insistent that when the radiologist called me, he told me that she wanted to make sure that I knew that that was what she had suggested, and she was very adamant. So
wonderful.
I was really lucky. I didn't have to do the search to figure out who was going to be my team. I didn't have to do anything. They did everything for me.
Wow, so you met with Dr. Curcio of BreastLink.
I did.
And I've heard so many wonderful things from her other patients. What was that first meeting like?
Wow, terribly emotional.
Yes.
It was a comfortable meeting because she had already been through it.
Yes.
So, you know, when you're there with your spouse or your family or whomever goes with you, you kind of hear everything, but you don't hear everything. You are not listening because there's so many things coming at you so fast.
Yes.
Unfortunately, my husband caught a lot of it, but she was just so open and so, putting things in layman's terms, helping you understand where you are in the triage, where you are in the scheme of things, how this process works, how long it works, that you shouldn't be worried if it takes 6 weeks for this or 4 weeks for that, that you just have to move with the program, and that everything is a team, and that everybody on the team is looking out for you. And she was just very comforting. I felt like I was in really good hands. I never worried about where I was. I never worried about what was going to happen. I just felt like she's going to save me. I'm good.
And that first meeting, of course, so much emotion, so much news is coming at you, and it affects you in all sorts of different ways. Your husband was able to circle back with you, and what were some of his impressions? Because he really was taking a lot in from that first meeting.
He didn't know a lot about breast cancer, just things that you hear or read, but the detail of what he learned, and if you go there and you see the video that she does, and then there's a 40-minute video that she has you sit and watch with your family, and that talks about what types of cancer, how they start, how they find them, how they decide what stages they are, if they're invasive, if they're not invasive, how they might be treated in the future if it's surgery, if it's some kind of process before surgery. He really ate that up. He was very interested. He thought it was really interesting the way she spoke. He liked what she said.
Yes.
He trusted her, which was important for me too. And she had been through it, so any question you could ask wouldn't have been a question that I would ask you a question and you would think, oh, I don't know, I haven't been through that. She'd been there.
Yes.
So she was able to answer all the questions, and it made him feel good. Because when it's happening to you, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to be fine.
Right.
But I'm looking at him and he's not thinking that. And you have to make him feel like I'm going to be fine, and she did that.
And so this level of trust gives you such confidence, and gave your husband confidence as well in Dr. Curcio, in BreastLink, and in the process that you were going to begin. So what were some of the first steps? What are your first impressions of this journey with BreastLink?
Well, it's a hard journey.
Yes.
I think the first thing is you have to accept it.
Yes. And it's not even really been just a year since your diagnosis.
Yeah, and you have to take it step by step.
Yes.
It's always like the little baby steps.
Yes.
And when you have a question, you have to ask it. And the number one rule, do not go on the internet. Everybody that I knew said, do not go on the internet.
Oh.
Because the only thing you're going to see on the internet is everybody else's really sad story. The really good stories don't end up on the internet. The people whose lives are saved, the people who get caught early, the people who have a wonderful experience, as wonderful as it can be in the situation that you're in,
Yes.
you don't hear about that. You hear all the really horrible stories, and not a single case is ever the same. So just because something happened to one person doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen to you. And it's not a healthy thing to go and read all these negative things, because you're already letting your mind go to a bad place.
And so
you got to control it.
And Dr. Curcio was able to help you with that control because she offered so much good information to you.
She provided information. She provided, anytime I needed to call, I had her cell number. I could contact her if I needed to. My husband could contact her.
Oh my.
I could call the office and I could ask questions. It just, you didn't feel like you were a patient-doctor kind of relationship. You felt like you were kind of in a partnership together. So she had her entire team, and it was all set. You didn't have to wonder who's going to do these things. It was all set up, and she tells you in the beginning there's a team.
Yes.
These are the people that are going to do the different work with you. This is the process and procedure. This is the order in which it happens. And then they start taking you through the process. So, you know, first you have to have, by the time you meet her, you've had your biopsy.
Yes.
And so that's when you have your first meeting, and you see the longer video, and you spend several hours with her. And then they start setting the meetings up for you to meet the plastic surgeon, and then you meet some of the other people that you're going to be working with, and you have appointments with all of those people. And then they already tell you pretty much ahead of time who you're going to be seeing for radiation or, you know, the oncology medication. Whoever you're going to be seeing, they already start to set that up and tell you who it's going to be.
What a relief for you.
You don't have to plan anything. It's sort of like you go to dinner and it's laid out in front of you. You don't even have to think about it. You just pick up the fork. And that was great. That was great because it was enough to get through it. It was enough to tell my family about it. It was enough to, you know, sort of accept, my gosh, this is happening to me. Because every day you wake up and think, boy, that's not a very good dream. I'm kind of hoping I wake up. But you don't.
Yes.
So, you know, you move on. And it was really a good experience because if I had to recommend any place for anybody to go, I would recommend them.
Absolutely. There's more than just the doctor-patient relationship. There is a true caring heart at BreastLink.
There is. They care about you. Every time that I would come in for any meeting,
Yes.
or for any procedure, I would walk in and all the girls at the front desk knew me by my first name.
Really?
They would say hello to me. We had talked about our kids. So it was just sort of going and seeing friends, going and feeling comfortable. There was the level of comfort that you got there that generally, other people that I know that have been through this in other facilities and other kinds of hospitals and medical groups
Yes.
didn't have this experience. I'm the
Yes.
only one of like 9 people I know
Oh my
that was
goodness.
this fortunate.
So I know that at BreastLink they have a panel each week where they discuss
They do.
your case, and you get the benefit of all of the minds at BreastLink just talking about your particular case.
That was one of the things I really liked, and she talked about in the beginning, was there was a committee meeting every Thursday.
Yes.
And you weren't just a patient, you were a person. And everybody that was going to be on your team, plus all the other doctors that were on the other teams,
Yes.
everybody looked at your records, and they looked at what was being recommended, and it was sort of a committee consensus of this is the right way to treat this patient. And then they would triage everything. So, you know, if somebody was really serious, they wouldn't put the non-serious one in front of the more serious situation. But it was nice because I never had to worry about one doctor making one decision about me and what if it wasn't the right decision. I had a
Yes.
whole team of people looking at my information all the time. Every week they would look at it, every week they would update it, and then they would tell me, this is the plan, this is when you're going to go in for pre-op, this is when you go in for surgery, this is what happens after surgery, these are all the people that are going to be there, and this is where you go after that. And they made all the phone calls, they did everything.
Oh my
I
goodness.
rarely had to make a phone call to make an appointment.
So that confidence was so encouraging to you because this journey you've had over the past year is a physical journey. It's a mental journey. You have to mentally make yourself ready to face this challenge, but a spiritual one as well. Can you tell me about that spiritual part of your journey?
I've always had a pretty strong faith.
Yes.
And I married a Catholic in the Catholic Church 30 years ago. And we raised our children Catholic, went through all the Catholic schools, high school, college, everything. And I never became Catholic because I sort of needed the calling.
Yes.
You know, you have to have some reason. And for me, there were a couple things that I was having a little trouble with, but I needed a calling.
Yes.
And I got it loud and clear. It was so loud. It would have echoed off the walls. It was so loud.
And so knowing that you were going to face these challenges, you knew that your own spiritual response was
You
something
have
that was
to
a
have-
part of your healing.
You have to have faith. You have to have faith, you have to have family, you have to have friends.
Yes.
And you have to give it off. There is so much of a burden
Yes.
that sits on you and your family. You have to give it to something. You have to push it off and let someone else take it. And the
BreastLink
priests
was
laugh about this because I
Yes.
said I made a deal with God. I said, okay, if you get me through this, I promise I'll be Catholic. And I'll tell you, the day that I got my "you're all clear," I went to the Catholic Church and I signed up for the classes and I went to every one of them. And they all still laugh. Oh yeah, she's the one who made the deal with God. And I said, and you know what? We kept both of our ends up.
Well, like you said, you have to be able to pass off some of this enormous burden, and being at BreastLink gives you the chance to do that. You can rest. You can be just the patient who needs to get better.
You can, and what's really nice about it is they call and check on you. When you go in, they ask you any questions, and you can pretty much ask any question you want, no matter how silly or weird you think it might be. I mean, I remember asking a question, is it normal for this? And they
Yes.
started laughing, and they said, no. I'm like, okay, one more time. She's the girl on the right side of the curve.
Well, Karen, I love hearing all of these wonderful things you have to say about BreastLink, because it sounds that your past year's journey has given you a place of joy. You're looking at a joyful place now, and you're giving some joy to other people and encouragement to other people just by telling us about where
Yeah.
you have been. So thank you for being with us
it's
today.
my pleasure.
And thank you for speaking with us. And thank you all for being with us today and hearing these stories of hope and encouragement and strength about BreastLink. Please always call BreastLink, ask them any question that you may have, because they are here for you. Join us again as we speak with more people and their wonderful journeys with BreastLink.